900 strikes, half a day. The US just launched its biggest military campaign since Iraq, and what happened inside those first 12 hours is unlike anything you've ever seen. The opening blast, 900 strikes in 12 hours. At exactly 1:15 in the morning on February 28, 2026, Eastern Time, the United States launched Operation Epic Fury. By the time most people across Iran woke up, 900 strikes had already landed. Let that sink in. Not 900 over a week, not 900 over a full month, 900 in half a single day. And the number kept climbing. By the end of the first 24 hours, US forces had crossed 1,000 total strikes. Within 48 hours, that figure hit 1,250 confirmed targets destroyed or heavily damaged. This wasn't some warning shot or show of force. This was a fully coordinated, multi-domain operation, air, sea, and ground assets all moving at once, built to hit so fast and so hard that Iran's defense network simply couldn't keep up. Radar stations, communication towers, emergency command centers, hardened bunkers, all of it was on the target list from day one. CENTCOM would later confirm that across just the first 10 days of the operation, US forces struck more than 5,000 targets inside Iran. That's an average of 500 strikes per day, every single day, for 10 consecutive days straight. No buildup, no slow escalation, just full-scale, overwhelming force from the opening minute.
To date, they've struck more than 5,000 targets. U.S. Strategic Command bombers recently dropped dozens of 2,000-pound GPS-penetrating weapons on deeply buried missile launchers across the southern flank. We also have struck several one-way drone factories to get at the heart of their autonomous capability.
Iran, however, maintains one of the largest missile and drone programs in the Middle East, built over decades to deter foreign attacks and strengthen its regional defense posture. What got hit first? The targets that mattered most. The very first wave of Operation Epic Fury didn't go after random infrastructure or symbolic targets. It went after the people and places that ran Iran's military machine. According to reports confirmed by US officials, the opening strike targeted a high-level leadership meeting. Nearly 50 senior Iranian regime figures were eliminated in under 50 seconds. President Trump himself later said 48 Iranian leaders were killed in the operation's opening phase. That included the commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Mohammad Pakpour, who was killed in the first airstrikes on February 28. Alongside the leadership strikes, the first wave also systematically dismantled Iran's command and control network. Dozens of urgency joint headquarters buildings, air defense radar arrays, and secure communication nodes were targeted across the country. Israeli strikes conducted under their parallel operation, Operation Roaring Lion, hit 10 of Iran's 18 air bases, cratering runways and destroying hardened aircraft shelters. The strategy behind this first wave was called decapitation. You don't just destroy weapons, you destroy the ability to give orders, coordinate a response, and organize any kind of effective counterattack. Once that structure is gone, what's left of the military is shooting blind. From the very first minute, this operation was designed to leave Iran's military leadership with no floor to stand on.
Earlier today, Pete Hegseth announced that today would be the most intense day of strikes inside Iran. During a briefing, he and Chairman Dan Kane took some questions from reporters on Operation Epic Fury. So let's listen to just a few of those together.
Despite the early shock, Iran's military structure is designed with layered command systems, meaning regional commanders and local units can still operate even if central leadership is disrupted. The U.S. Abraham Lincoln, where the air war launched from. While the strikes were happening everywhere at once, a lot of the fighter jet activity in the opening phase came from a single ship, the U.S. Abraham Lincoln CVN-72, a Nimitz-class nuclear-powered aircraft carrier operating in the Northern Arabian Sea. The Abraham Lincoln was carrying F-35C stealth fighters and F/A-18E and F Super Hornets, both of which were used to deliver precision strikes on Iranian military targets. The F-35Cs flew in a specific stealth configuration, carrying a single Sidewinder air-to-air missile externally for self-defense, while keeping additional strike weapons tucked inside their internal weapons bays to maintain a low radar signature. That combination is deliberate. External weapons increase radar visibility. Internal weapons keep the plane nearly invisible on enemy radar. The F/A-18 Super Hornets were loaded differently, carrying 500-pound precision-guided bombs designed to punch through hardened structures, plus medium and short-range air-to-air missiles in case Iranian aircraft tried to intercept. Here's what makes a carrier like the Abraham Lincoln so dangerous in a conflict like this: it's not parked next to the target. It's a floating airbase that can move up to 34 miles per hour across open ocean and Project Air Power hundreds of miles inland, launching wave after wave of fully armed jets around the clock without stopping. That's what it did here. Night after night, wave after wave. Iran has spent years developing layered air defense systems, including domestically produced radar networks and missile defenses designed specifically to counter large-scale aerial operations. The B-2 Spirit, flying from Missouri to strike Iran. While carrier jets handled targets that were closer in, there was a weapon flying missions that most people on the ground in Iran never saw coming. And by the time they did, it was already too late. The B-2 Spirit stealth bomber flew round-trip missions from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, a journey stretching well beyond 10,000 miles. These are 36-hour-plus missions. The crews sleep in shifts. The aircraft refuel multiple times in mid-air, courtesy of KC-46 Pegasus tankers that launched in rapid succession from their own bases. What the B-2 was carrying on these missions were Gibu-31 bombs fitted with Blue 109 penetrator warheads. Each bomb weighs 2,000 pounds. The Blue 109 has a hardened steel casing designed specifically to punch through earth, rock, and reinforced concrete before the delayed fuse detonates, generating a massive blast and overpressure wave deep underground. These are the weapons built for buried targets. Iran had spent years building underground missile bunkers across the country, believing they were safe. The B-2 proved otherwise. CENTCOM's Admiral Brad Cooper confirmed that in just the first 72 hours of the operation, America's bomber force struck nearly 200 targets deep inside Iran. Many of those hits were on deeply buried ballistic missile launches that Iran thought were untouchable. The B-1B Lancer, speed, range, and deep strike. The B-2 wasn't the only bomber in play. The United States also deployed the B-1B Lancer, a supersonic, long-range strategic bomber that doesn't have the B-2's full stealth capability but brings something else to the table: raw speed, massive payload, and the ability to rapidly engage targets at extreme range. B-1B Lancers were deployed to RAF Fairford in the United Kingdom, a key forward staging base that cuts flight time to Iranian targets significantly. According to military reporting, B-1Bs were used during the first 72 hours of the operation to strike ballistic missile production facilities and command and control infrastructure deep inside Iran. The B-1B can carry up to 75,000 pounds of ordnance, more than any other American bomber. In this operation, it was used to deliver precision-guided munitions onto hardened military sites that needed rapid, high-volume destruction. This bomber doesn't sneak in like the B-2. It charges in at high speed, drops its payload with precision, and clears the area before a full defensive response can be organized. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth made it clear during Pentagon briefings that the bomber force's objectives were locked in: destroy Iran's ballistic missile stockpiles, destroy their launches, and eliminate the industrial base that builds and repairs them. The B-1B was a key tool for making that happen quickly. Tomahawk cruise missiles. The silent punch from the sea. While aircraft were dominating the skies, the U.S. Navy was doing serious damage from a completely different direction. From the water, U.S. guided missile destroyers, including the US Bulkley and the US Thomas Hudner, launched Tomahawk land attack missiles in support of Operation Epic Fury as early as the operation's first day. These are not short-range weapons. The Tomahawk has a range of more than 1,000 miles. And it doesn't fly straight. It follows terrain. It hugs the ground and skims hills to stay below radar detection. It can adjust its course mid-flight and hit within feet of its intended target. Each Tomahawk costs between $2 and $2.5 million to produce and $3 to $4 million to actually deploy when you factor in logistics. That's expensive, but when you're targeting a command center or a radar installation worth tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, that math works out. The critical advantage of ship-launched Tomahawks is that they put zero pilots at risk. A destroyer sitting hundreds of miles offshore can quietly fire into landlocked Iranian military sites with no fighter jets involved, no pilots in danger, and no chance of aerial interception against the missile itself once it's hugging the terrain. These were fired alongside carrier jets and bombers, adding yet another layer to an already overwhelming coordinated assault. Lucas drones, the $35,000 weapon that changed everything. Now here's something that most coverage of this operation has barely touched, and it might be the most significant military development of this entire conflict. For the very first time in combat history, the United States deployed the Lucas drone. That stands for Low-Cost Unmanned Combat Attack System. These are one-way attack drones, kamikaze style, designed to find a target, fly straight into it, and detonate. They are not recovered after launch. They're single-use weapons. And here's the number that should stop you cold. Each one costs approximately $35,000. Compare that to a single Tomahawk cruise missile at over $1 million per shot, or a stealth fighter jet worth hundreds of millions. The Lucas drone is a fraction of the cost, and you can send hundreds of them at once. The concept is saturation. If you flood a target area with dozens of these drones simultaneously, enemy air defense systems can only shoot down so many before the rest get through. The swarm compensates for individual losses. If half are intercepted, the remaining drones automatically redistribute to cover the full target list. Lucas was originally reverse-engineered from a design concept inspired by Iran's own Shahed series drones. The US basically took the cheap drone playbook and built an American version that's modular, resistant to jamming, and capable of real-time coordination across the swarm. This wasn't just a combat use. This was a statement about where warfare is heading next. PAR-SM, the ground-launched missile nobody knew was ready. There was also a historic first that happened on the ground during this operation, and it went largely unnoticed amid all the air and sea strike coverage. On March 4, 2026, CENTCOM officially confirmed the first ever combat use of the precision strike missile, known as PAR-SM. It was fired from an M142 HIMARS launcher positioned on the ground in open desert terrain. It was footage released by CENTCOM showed the missile launching from the mobile launcher in real time. PAR-SM is a next-generation ground-based missile system built to hit targets at distances exceeding 310 miles, significantly farther than the Army's previous long-range ground weapons. CENTCOM called it an unrivaled deep strike capability. That phrase matters because it means the ground forces now have the ability to reach high-value, deeply protected targets without relying solely on aircraft or ships. Before PAR-SM was available, if you wanted to strike a hardened Iranian site 200 or 250 miles inland from a ground position, you had limited options. Now, you fire a precision missile from a truck-sized launcher on a dirt road, and it reaches the target with pinpoint accuracy. CENTCOM's statement was precise. This was a historic first. No combat scenario had previously deployed this weapon. Operation Epic Fury changed that, adding yet another long-range precision capability to the already overwhelming portfolio of US strike systems used in this operation. Nuclear sites targeted. What we know so far. One of the most sensitive parts of this entire operation has been the question of Iran's nuclear program and what exactly happened to it. Here's the verified timeline. In June 2025, under Operation Midnight Hammer, the US and Israel had already struck Iran's primary nuclear facilities, Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. The Jibu-57 massive ordnance penetrator, a 30,000-pound bomb, was used against Fordow, a site buried deep inside a mountain that was specifically built to survive conventional attacks. When Operation Epic Fury launched in February 2026, it returned to these same sites and went further. The IAEA confirmed that buildings at the Natanz uranium enrichment facility had sustained damage. Iran's metallurgy facility at Isfahan, which had survived the June 2025 strikes, was destroyed. Multiple additional research, development, and production sites tied to Iran's nuclear infrastructure were struck throughout the first 10 days. As of Day 10, Defense Secretary Hegseth acknowledged that full battle damage assessment of Iran's nuclear capabilities takes time. You have to examine satellite imagery and determine whether facilities were degraded, destroyed, or fully collapsed underground. But the trend line was clear. Iran's ability to enrich uranium and manufacture nuclear-related components had been severely degraded. The price tag, $3.7 billion in 4 days, and what comes next? Wars cost money. This one is costing a lot of it, very fast. According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, one of the most respected defense think tanks in the country, the US, and its allies spent an estimated $3.7 billion in just the first 4 days of Operation Epic Fury. That works out to roughly $891 million per day. In the first full 100 hours of the operation, the total cost estimate hit $3.7 to $10.7 billion, depending on how you account for air defense intercept costs. And the equipment being used isn't cheap. Single Tomahawk missiles cost up to $4 million to deploy. The Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier alone costs an estimated $2.5 million per day just to keep running. Add dozens of aircraft, escort ships, tankers, and the operational costs jump to $9 million per day for the carrier strike group alone. What did that money buy? By day 10, over 5,000 targets struck. More than 50 Iranian naval ships sunk or seriously damaged. Ballistic missile launches from Iran down 90% from day 1. Iranian drone attacks down 83%. And Iran's nuclear, missile, and air defense infrastructure hit harder than at any point in the country's modern military history. The question everyone is watching now is how far this goes, and what a post-operation Iran looks like for the region and the world. This is not just a news story. It's a turning point. That's everything we know about the most intense opening phase of any US military operation in decades. If you want real breakdowns on major world events the moment they happen, no fluff, no spin, just the facts, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We cover it all, and we're just getting started.